Welcome to the channel, my fellow wanderers of Middle-earth. Today we delve into a forgotten fragment of Arda's ancient history. A theory that whispers of a second moon, a celestial wanderer that once graced the skies above Beleriand long before the days of the sun and the moon as we know them. Was Middle-earth once under the watchful gaze of two lunar lights? Could this lost moon hold the key to understanding the deeper, often darker tides of Tolkien's legendarium? Stay with us as we sift through the veiled memories of the First Age and beyond, where echoes of this forgotten world may still linger. In the earliest conceptions of Middle-earth's mythology, as laid out in the Book of Lost Tales and later expanded in the Silmarillion, the world was not always lit by the sun and moon. In those distant, shadowed times, the light of the two trees, Telperion and Lorelin, cast their glow over Valinor, the undying lands, while the Middle-earth we know lay under the starlight woven by Varda, the Queen of the Stars. Yet hints of a second moon appear in these ancient writings, suggesting a more complex cosmology in Tolkien's earliest drafts. In the Book of Lost Tales Tolkien imagines a world where celestial bodies are crafted and guided by the Valar, the mighty beings akin to gods, each with their own purposes and domains. Among the most tantalizing fragments of this forgotten moon lore comes from the Ambar Canta, or Shape of the World, a cosmological text attributed to Rúmil of Valinor. Here, Tolkien sketches a vision of Arda as a vast layered realm, with Ilmen, the region of pure air, encircling the world. Early drafts of this work suggest that at some point in his creative process, Tolkien considered multiple lunar bodies, each with its own path through the heaven. These ideas were not fully realized in the later, more refined mythology, but traces remain, hinting at a time when the skies above Arda may have been far more crowded than we now imagine. But yet, why might Tolkien have abandoned this second moon concept? The reasons seem to lie in his ever-evolving vision of Middle-earth's cosmology. As his world matured, he increasingly sought a sense of mythic consistency, aligning his creation more closely with the primary world's single moon. This approach mirrored the mythological transition seen in many ancient cultures, where earlier, more chaotic pantheons gradually gave way to more structured, unified mythologies. By the time of the Silmarillion's later drafts, the two-lamp system of Iluin and Ormol, and the two-tree light of Telperion and Lorelin had fully replaced any notion of multiple moons, drawing closer to the celestial order known to our own world. Of course, the idea of a second moon in Arda remains speculative, a shadowy echo of an abandoned idea. Yet, this very uncertainty lends the theory its allure, inviting us to imagine what might have been. A world where the light of two moons shone down upon the darkened forests of Beleriand, where shadows were deeper and the ancient songs of the Eldar echoed under a more mysterious sky. If we dig deeper into Tolkien's early drafts, another intriguing reference emerges in the Lost Tales, where the ancient elf loremaster Rúniel speaks of the first designs of the Valar to illuminate their world. In these early imaginings, the moon, presumably the single familiar one we know, was originally intended to be the first of many lights set in the heavens, before the later elevation of the sun. This hints at a more fluid, experimental phase in Arda's early history, when the Valar, newly arrived in the physical world, was still shaping its boundaries and laws. It is in this context that a second moon might have been conceived, a passing thought of the Ainur, later set aside as their grander designs unfolded. Such concepts were not without their complications. In the Ambar Canta, Tolkien describes the world as a closed system, surrounded by the encircling sea and the walls of night, with the stars of Varda set high above in the outer heaven. This vision leaves little room for the free orbit of multiple moons, without disrupting the carefully wrought balance of his mythos. Yet, even in this structured cosmos, the possibility of a forgotten lunar body remains. We might imagine this second moon as a casualty of Arda's many catastrophes, a satellite broken or cast out during the tumultuous reshaping of the world after the fall of the lamps, or the cataclysm that sank Númenor. Consider also the impact of such a second moon on Middle-earth's inhabitants. The elves, those most ancient of peoples, awoke under starlight, and their songs often recall the deep, primal fears and awe they held for the night sky. A second moon, casting its pale, spectral glow over the forests of Quivernen, might have influenced their earliest myths and tales. Indeed, it is known that the elves saw the coming of the moon as a harbinger of change, the first sign of the waning of their dominion and the rise of the younger children of Ilúvatar, the race of men. Might a second moon, then, have carried similar omens, its pale light casting long, uncertain shadows over the ancient world? Moreover, we must not overlook the impact on those shadowed peoples of Middle-earth, like the dwarves and the orcs. The Khazats, born in the deeps of the earth and ever wary of the sunlit world, might have held a second moon in a more practical regard, its light less blinding than the harsh radiance of Anor. For the orcs, twisted mockeries of the elves, such a moon could have symbolized their own corrupted place in the world, something broken and lesser, but still a force to be reckoned with. There is also the matter of Morgoth, the first Dark Lord, whose hatred for the Valar and their creations knew no bounds. Could he have sought to corrupt or shatter this second moon, as he later sought to ruin the sun and moon themselves? In Morgoth's ring, we see glimpses of his grander, often apocalyptic designs for Arda, hinting at a desire not merely to rule, but to unravel the very fabric of the world itself. A second moon, if it once existed, would surely have been a target for his malice, a symbol of the divine order he sought to overthrow. This shadowed theory, though speculative, finds echoes in the myths of our own world, where multiple moons and shattered celestial bodies often symbolize lost ages and forgotten truths. It adds a layer of mystery to Arda's history, a ghostly remnant of an earlier, wilder time when even the skies of Middle-earth were still in flux. As we push further into the twilight of Arda's forgotten histories, we should consider another, more enigmatic source, the Notion Club Papers, a lesser-known work from Tolkien's Legendarium. Written during the post-war years as a sort of experimental fiction, these writings blend Middle-earth lore with the concept of true dreams and time travel, connecting modern England with the ancient myths of Númenor and Valinor. In these pages, Tolkien hints at celestial changes over the ages, including the reshaping of the heavens and the possibility of forgotten astral bodies. It is here that we find tantalizing whispers of ancient lunar lore, suggesting that Tolkien never fully abandoned the idea of a more complex sky above Arda. Yet, even as these concepts flickered in Tolkien's mind, his later, more polished works would seem to close the door on the idea of a second moon. By the time of the final draft of the Silmarillion, the creation myth had settled firmly into the narrative of the two trees, the lamps, and the eventual sun and moon, each with their appointed paths. The celestial order was set, and the notion of a second moon, with all its mythic possibilities, became a mere echo, lost in the early drafts of his work. But could this lost moon still linger in some form? Perhaps not as a physical object, but as a memory or a metaphor, a fragment of myth whispered among the wise. The elves, with their long memories and deep sense of history, might well recall such a thing, their songs and tales subtly hinting at the passing of an older, stranger world. After all, the Eldar often spoke of the long defeat, the slow, tragic fading of their power and their world's purity. What better symbol of this than a forgotten moon cast from its orbit, a ghostly remnant of a time before the dominion of men? This line of thought finds some support in the Athrabeth Finrod a Andreth, a dialogue between the elven king Finrod and the mortal wise woman Andreth, found in Morgoth's ring. Here, the two speak of the deep, spiritual wounds inflicted upon Arda by Morgoth, wounds that scar the very fabric of the world and alter the course of time itself. If Morgoth's malice could twist the fate of entire races, might it not also have shattered celestial bodies, casting a second moon from the heavens in a fit of ancient rage? This, too, might be a part of the long shadow cast by his dark reign. And what of the Valar themselves, the great spirits who shaped the world and guided its course? Would they not have sought to preserve the memory of a lost moon, a piece of their earliest designs for the world? In The Nature of Middle-earth, Tolkien explores the deeply personal, even emotional connections the Valar have with their creations, revealing them to be far more invested in the fate of Arda than mere distant overseers. Might one of them, perhaps Varda herself, still recall the pale, lost light of a second moon, singing its forgotten song in the distant heights of Tanaketl? These reflections add a haunting note to the long history of Middle-earth, reminding us that for all its epic scope, it remains a world touched by loss and memory. The idea of a second moon, abandoned yet lingering in half-forgotten legends, is a fitting metaphor for the bittersweet, elegiac tone that permeates Tolkien's work. A world forever looking back to its lost past, even as it struggles toward an uncertain future. As we draw closer to the present form of Arda, we must consider the implications of a lost moon in the context of the broader mythology. For the mortal races of Middle-earth, men, dwarves, and even hobbits, such a celestial body would have been more than a mere astronomical oddity. It would have shaped their myths, their calendars, and perhaps even their very sense of destiny. Imagine the ancient mariners of Númenor, their ships cutting through the dark waters of Belegaya, guided not just by the stars but by the double light of two moons, a sight long forgotten by the time of Aragorn's final voyage into the west. This notion becomes even more compelling when we consider the unique relationship between the moon and the fates of men. In the early drafts of the Silmarillion, Tolkien hints that the moon, unlike the sun, has a closer connection to the destinies of mortals. The sun, with its fierce, unchanging light, might be seen as a symbol of the immortal elves, while the moon, with its phases and cycles, reflects the fleeting, ever-changing lives of men. A second moon, then, might have carried even deeper, more mysterious associations, perhaps connected to the darker, forgotten aspects of human nature, the shadows of memory, the cycles of loss and renewal that define the mortal experience. Moreover, we must not overlook the mystical implications of such a lost moon in the minds of Middle-earth's wise. The Ustari, those wandering wizards sent by the Valar to guide the free peoples, would surely have pondered such ancient mysteries in their long travel. Gandalf, in particular, with his deep knowledge of Middle-earth's hidden histories and his friendship with the elves, might have known of this lost moon, its story whispered in the forgotten songs of Lindon or in the dark halls of Moria. Even Saruman, in his prideful pursuit of hidden lore, might have sought to uncover its secrets, seeing in it a symbol of lost power, much as he coveted the One Ring itself. Then there are the darker forces of Middle-earth, for whom the night and its mysteries held a more sinister appeal. The Nazgûl, those shadowed servants of Sauron, might have drawn strength from such a forgotten moon, their ghostly forms moving like pale shadows beneath its light. Even the Dark Lord himself, who once served Morgoth and sought to bend the world to his will, might have viewed the destruction or corruption of this second moon as a fitting monument to his own dark ambitions. Yet for all these possibilities, the idea of a second moon ultimately fades into the mists of forgotten lore, a casualty of Tolkien's ever-shifting mythology. By the time he wrote the final drafts of the Silmarillion, the world had settled into a more familiar form, with a single moon rising and setting over the mountains of Middle-earth. The ghost of this second moon, if it ever truly existed, became a forgotten echo, a mere footnote in the long, winding history of Arda. A symbol, perhaps, of the very nature of Middle-earth itself, a world defined as much by what is lost and forgotten as by what endures. And so we come to the end of this journey through the forgotten paths of Arda's early skies. The theory of a second moon, though speculative, opens a fascinating window into Tolkien's creative process, a glimpse of a world still in flux, where even the heavens themselves might change as the Valar shaped the destiny of Middle-earth. It reminds us that Tolkien's legendarium, for all its depth and detail, remains a living, breathing creation, full of mysteries and forgotten tales waiting to be rediscovered. Indeed, Tolkien himself often spoke of his work as an attempt to create a mythology for England, a tapestry of stories rich with hidden meanings and lost histories. In his letters, he reflects on the deep sadness that lies at the heart of his mythology, a sense of loss that echoes through the ages of Middle-earth, from the darkening of Valinor to the fall of Númenor and the fading of the elves. In this context, the idea of a second moon becomes a fitting symbol for the tragic, ever-diminishing nature of Arda, a reminder of things lost to time, like the white shores of Aman or the once proud towers of Gondolin. Perhaps then this forgotten moon, if it ever existed, lives on in the memories of the elves as they sail westward into the uttermost west, or in the whispered songs of the Dúnedain as they wander the lonely hills of Eriador. It is a ghostly echo of a world more vibrant and strange, a fleeting reminder that even in Middle-earth, where myth and memory are deeply entwined, not all stories are known, and not all truths are remembered. As we conclude this exploration, we invite you to ponder this mystery with us. Could the skies of Middle-earth once have held a second moon, its pale light casting long shadows over a world still young and full of wonder? Or is this merely a dream, a forgotten fragment of Tolkien's earliest imaginings, lost, like so many other tales, to the mists of time? Whatever the truth, it is a question worthy of reflection, a reminder that Middle-earth, like our own world, is full of mysteries that may never be fully understood. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the hidden histories of Middle-earth. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the mysteries of Arda, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, may the stars shine ever brightly upon your path, and may your wanderings always bring you to new discoveries.